Hi, I'm David Hayden.
I'm Steve George.
And between us, we don't like to think of how many years experience we've got in learning and development.
And we're co-authors of the book Adjacent Learning,
which is all about using insights from outside of the organisation to develop workplace performance.
So David, you've worked in learning and development for a long time. What are the gaps in learning and development that Adjacent Learning can help resolve?
The gaps in the learning and development profession, it's all around the context that learning and development's operating in. So do we really understand the context that we're operating in? We may be aware of what our organisation needs, but very often we're not aware of what we've actually got and what we're actually working with. So what are the absolute skills and knowledge of the people within our organisations? And that for me is one of the key bits where adjacent learning really kind of comes to its full. So for instance, in the book, one individual shares a story where she's on a mandatory course. She calls it mandatory in her words. It's manual handling. She has to attend a manual handling course as part of her job. However, there is no context for her workplace in that course. So it was all geared for office workers and picking up kind of reams of paper, that kind of thing. Whereas she was out on the streets emptying overflowing litter boxes, sometimes with needles in. And she was saying, well, how can I apply this on this organisation's course that you've given me into my day job, which she couldn't. However, she then went on to say, I get trained as part of that volunteering role, and I was able to use more of the training from a volunteering role in my day job than what my actual organisation provided me. So I think we've really got to kind of think around, do we really understand what the skills gaps are in our organisation and what we're working with? So Steve, in terms of adjacent learning, where do the advantages come from?
So the advantages come from being able to tap into the incredible life experiences and knowledge we have within our organisations. It can also help us avoid reinventing the wheel. So if other organisations or other professions are doing things fantastically well, then we may as well learn from those rather than create our own way of doing things. We can also learn from what other organisations and professions perhaps don't do so well. There's also something really powerful for me in the inclusive environment you can create through adjacent learning. So if you're creating a culture that encourages people to come to work, to share what they've learned from outside work, to share those experiences, then you're taking huge steps towards a more inclusive environment where people are happy to share those experiences and bring those with them to work.
So that whole thing around we are more than our job description, we know more than what our job description details tell us.
Yeah. David, there's lots of tried and tested methods in learning and development. What are the limitations of some of those methods? So why do we need adjacent learning? So
one of the challenges, I guess, is the narrow focus we can sometimes have in learning and development. Adjacent learning allows us to widen that thinking. We know that a one size doesn't fit all. We know that it's really hard to apply different things for different groups of people based on what they know. We know that's hard, but the outputs are much stronger. A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't drive organisation performance. So taking that time, investing in the effort and energy needed to think around what can we learn from beyond our workplace will really pay dividends.